So it's beautiful from the inside. My wife says I should enjoy its beauty for what it is. I think that's only gonna last until I open the door and have to go outside. Alright, here's where the adventure begins. I'm gonna give you guys a panoramic view of the property. This is after the horrible storm from yesterday. Hex beam. Bent over pole here next to a fiberglass pole. The fiberglass pole holds the 80-meter inverted L, and bent over pole, aluminum pole holds the inverted L for 160. So this is my 6B TV. It's got an 80-meter trap whip on the top. I've had that for probably 4 or 5 years. It works pretty good. Not on 80 though. And then here's my inverted L mess. Underneath this there's 2 ball-ins, one for this blue wire, which is my inverted L for 160, and then this black wire is for my 80-meter inverted L. And I've got quite a few radials down here. It's hard to see, but I probably have a good 40 radials symmetrically laid around, and I also have 4 probably 30-foot runs of chicken mesh, one this way, that way, that way, and this way, to further improve my ground. You really can't see it in there, but there's one ballin', and then there's another ballin' down here. They share the same radial system. I also have a remote MFJ or Ameritron switch. I can switch from the shack between the 2 antennas. And this pole here, my wife and I put up a couple years ago, and let me tell you, that was the worst experience of my life. And she says I better never ask her again. And between us, I would rather eat shoe leather than ask her to help me, because it was a nightmare. And you could see my push-up pole there with the 2 dipoles. One is the 80-meter dipole and one is the 60-meter, which is pretty much useless, man. I mean, it's a cloud burner. I use it for some local communication, but it's not very good. So when it warms up, my plan, I bought a new push-up mast on eBay, old military one. I'm gonna put that in to replace this, and I'll use it for both inverted L's as well as the mast for my hex beam. So let me show you the rest of the antenna farm. You probably wonder why I'm doing this, because I'm bored out of my mind. Stuck in the house, can't ride my motorcycle, it's too cold to ride the bicycle. My wife's sick today. So this is product name is a Super Loop, and it's a big delta loop. Here's one of the wires, runs up that tree, and then it's probably hard to see, but there's another wire that runs to this ladder line and then across and then back down. It's big, but the theory of this antenna, I didn't make it, I bought it, is that this is a shorted stub on 80, and then on 40 it opens up and it's a bi-square antenna. And you know, for local context it works pretty good. I used it with the North American QSO party, made a lot of contacts, and it's a little more quiet than a regular dipole because of some of the directional properties, but it's okay. It's been up for a while. It's dropped probably about 10 feet just from the winter abuse, but it's okay. And then let's walk over here. This is the second snow blizzard mess that we've had this year, and it's taking the tolls on the trees. I tell you, we've lost a lot of branches. This is my pixel loop. It's on a cheap rotor. It works pretty good. Not really good on 60 or 80. I mean, it's okay, not great. But I use it for shortwave and other stuff. So good, you know, decent antenna. And then I'm going to show you my K9AY loop. I've had this for probably, I don't know, 3 years. And this is the base, a switching unit and electronics, ground post. Each of these wires is a loop. That's southeast, northwest, northeast, and southwest. Off a little bit, I would say. And there's the push-up mast, frozen solid. It works pretty good. I'd say it's not as good as the 4-square on 160, about as good as the 4-square on 80. When the beverages are working, I would say it was a little less than the beverages, but so I used a 4-square for 160, use this for 80, and the beverages for 40, and then whatever works for the bands above that, 20, 15, and 10, you know, the hex beam or various other antennas. So here's one of the beverages. This is the north. This is the north. What is it? North southwest one. I think that's right. Is that right? No, northwest southeast. Yeah. I'm not very good with directions, guys. But anyway, this is, I think it's about a 450-foot run from the front of my property line all the way to the back. I have it hammered to trees, hanging in trees, and they work okay. So you can see how it runs. I'm what, 5'10", 5'11", so the run's anywhere from maybe 4 feet all the way up to 6. So here's one of the termination points for the beverages. It's just a DX Engineering resistor in here to a ground, and then the antenna runs all the way to the back. Let me see if I can clip this to a branch to put the antenna into perspective. Here's me in front of the K9AY. So there's the pond. It's frozen over, but it's not as frozen over as it was last year. The other end of the 500-foot beverage, and here's the hub. So now I'm going to determine, or attempt to determine, why it stopped working. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the four square and get my exercise for the day. Here's one of the verticals. There's four of these, and they're about 12 foot. DX Engineering. I've had this system for 3 years, and this is the first year I've had a problem with it. And again, it was the long guy cutting the cable. So here's the hub. This is just a protection choke, and this hub switches the four antennas. There's one off back there, one back there, one there, and I already showed you that one. But there's some phasing loops that have to be cut. This is one of them. But this box runs RG6 all the way back to the shack in the house. And then there's a control cable that runs back the other way. And I dug all that up only to find out that, you probably can't see it, right over here, my long guy tore the cable up. I mean, shredded it into pieces and shorted out the system. And why he was cutting over here, because there's really no grass. There's the other unit. So that's it, guys. That's my antenna farm, such as it is. Probably could do a lot more, but my wife's not keen on a tower, and frankly neither am I. And probably the next thing I'll invest in is I want to try one of those shared apex loops for 40 meters and above, and I got to figure out where to put that so it's less obtrusive. That's it.